Well, it's a public holiday. Shelter FootyCast still rolls on. Skeeter's here. He's the hardest working man in football, as someone used to say. We are here live from BackChat Studios. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, how are you?
Hello, Schoey. Good to be here. And you reckon I've just come from the Western Force
Did you go home?
I did go home.
The last time I saw you was Saturday Arvo. You were complaining about going in. No, you were speaking highly of going in and running the Western Force boundary operations. And you've come in here and you're still wearing your Western Force gear. So I question, have you been home?
I have been home, and I did enjoy my experience at the Force. I've got a clanger of the week, which I'll drop in a bit later, but I did get there. And just in brief, you have to go through the team lists in rugby, as you do in most sports. And the Chiefs had made a numerous amount of changes. And I went to Mick Collis, who knows his rugby. I said, mate, can you just help us with some of the pronunciations that will come my way, because there are some 6, 7, 8 syllables in names here.
Are we getting to the Thirsty Camel Clanger?
No, it's not. This isn't even close to the Clanger of the week. Anyway, he's had a look down and said, can you give me help with these names? He's a rugby expert. Yes. He goes, nah, they're all reserves. I've never heard of them. So I am talking like a complete idiot about some of these names with 14 syllables, so I apologise to the Chiefs in advance. But whatever I was doing on Saturday night, I will say this, and I went to watch the FA Cup straight after that I was nowhere near best on ground, because you, Will Schofield, have been nominated best on ground at Dom Sheed's 150th celebration. That's coming from a source relatively close, said you were on fire.
Who has said that?
Mitch Turner.
Mitch Turner. Oh, please, Mitch Turner. I was actually well behaved. I went home.
He said you were best on.
People were going out, none of the players, but there was people there, like Mitch Turner and others. They were on their way out. I went home. I thought that was well behaved.
Well, normally you would declare if you've made a mess of yourself.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah. No, I did make a mess of myself. I did not. So we're going to get through some of this. We've got the Thirsty Camel Clanger of the week. I'm looking forward to it. If that's not even the Clanger, Skeet can't pronunciate names. Pronunciate? Is that right?
Pronunciation.
Thank you. Froth Town, what we frothed on this weekend. Good game. Couple of good games of footy yesterday. Watched them both. August 18 and 19, Claremont Showgrounds, Froth.town. Jump over there, grab some tickets. We're going to be speaking about some big moments in footy. Let's get into some of them. Clearly, West Coast Collingwood is probably the biggest moment in the round. Jordan De Goey, the bump gets sent straight to the tribunal. What was your reaction on the incident?
Well, I think the incident, most people agree on that, don't they? That there's going to be a 3 or 4 week stint on the sidelines for Jordan. I think even discussing it with you on radio, I don't think it wasn't premeditated. It was a football act.
I don't think it was dirty.
No, it was a badly executed. He deserves to get time. And I think I asked David Mundy about this at the time, whether it would affect Jordan for the rest of the game. I reckon that sort of stuff.
It wasn't much involved.
No, I reckon it might have played on his mind, because Elijah Hewitt goes down. So, but that really hasn't been the talking point, has it? It's been more about the aftermath and the response by your former club, as opposed to the act of Jordan De Goey, which there's some out there, including Nathan Buckley and Grant Thomas, suggesting that Hewitt had to be a little bit more aware of his surroundings, which you can give me a different spin on. But yeah, I think it's more the reaction by the Eagles as much as anything after that was the story of the weekend.
Yeah, how I sum it up is De Goey bumped. Look, it was bad, clearly. He got him in the head, he jumped. He got everything wrong you could possibly get wrong. But I don't really see actions like that dirty. Like the Tom Stewart press day, I don't see it as dirty. It's just, it's what happens in footy sometimes. And hopefully, like you've heard me speak about this enough, I'm not going to hang Jordan De Goey out to dry. He's going to get 3 or 4 weeks. Like, he's hit him in the head. So clearly not a good incident. The stuff post, like Grant Thomas talking about Elijah Hewitt should have been protecting himself. But I mean, the bloke's handball to handball. Actually executed the handball really well, but his fist's still going through the side of his body to give the handball, so his arm sort of ends up across him, and he's got
he can't protect himself.
Running 100 miles an hour and can't protect himself. So I don't think that's an issue. The tweeting by West Coast Eagles of Jordan De Goey's suspension, I don't know what's going on there. I'm not sure who's got control of the Twitter over there. It's been a couple of rough weeks. But, I mean, what I want to really focus on and, zone in on, and I haven't premeditated this, but I certainly came away from the game. Well, when it happened, I was angry. I was calling the game with you. I don't think I've ever been that angry on air. I was worked up about the fact that regardless of Jordan De Goey's incident, whether or not it was a weak act or not, which it wasn't, the fact that not one player went to Jordan De Goey when it happened, not one, and then they played it on the big screen 10 times. Now, I was there when Andrew Brayshaw happened, and I was playing as a player, and I didn't see that incident. I didn't see it.
How long did it take you to see the incident?
I was on the bench watching the hammy. Sorry, I was on the bench. I'd done my hammy, and it took me until the next quarter time to see it. And I was sitting there. Andrew Gaff had come to the bench, and he was consoled, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought he'd done his hammy or something. I didn't know
He
what
was upset. Yep.
Anyway, so I'm just pointing out the fact that I can't accept that they didn't see it immediately. But no one goes to him when it happens, which I was annoyed at to start with. But then I thought, well, the word's going to get around. Quarter time, it happened in the first quarter, second quarter.
It was first half, definitely.
It was first quarter. So because quarter time came around, I thought, well, the word's going to get around here. Adam Simpson's going to cook the boys for not supporting their 18-year-old fourth game player, and they're going to come out and show something. And I know Simo did speak to him at quarter time, and he wasn't happy. He challenged a few. What were they going to do about it? They came out at the start of the second quarter. I'll name who went to him. Jake Waterman went to him.
And Greg Clark.
To be frank, I don't think either of those players... Well, you know what?
Who they got, though?
It doesn't even matter, mate.
I agree.
You should have your entire team going to him after the quarter time break. I couldn't give a flying F how much money it costs you, what reputation. I don't really give a shit. I know you can't hit him. I know you can't bash him. I know you can't do any things, but you need to show that your 18-year-old teammate means more to you than your own performance and the way you perform and winning and losing. That West Coast side out there on the weekend, they played quite well. Like, it was quite a positive game. That is the most embarrassing, insipid, gutless performance I've seen from that side in 2 years. It was disgraceful, genuinely disgraceful that no one went to Jordan De Goey. Greg Clark went to him at the start of every break, and I got a lot of respect for that. Greg Clark went to him in front of the starting midfield, and he was fighting three of them. And I'm not talking about this fighting stuff. Like, it's not going to do anything. It's just showing that it means something to you. The three blokes stood there and watched him throw some jumpers around. They just watched him.
This is a bloke that's fighting for his career.
Mate.
That is, I mean, he's certainly not regarded as an enforcer. I wish I could do a counter-argument.
Usually with these ones, I reckon sometimes, like, I get a bit fired up with the old school stuff, stick up for your teammates and, don't let people up off the ground. You and I have butted heads with it, but this one here, I think you were sort of agreeing with me, right?
Oh, totally. And look, I even said on the 6PR broadcast, I think you'd even be happy. I think Waterman had the ball on the boundary with a shot on goal. I'd have no issue giving up a free kick in that situation to go and make a stand. And again, nothing that's going to end up with punches being thrown. But yeah, it was passive. And well, end of the day, the coach wasn't happy about it. I've heard that from numerous sources have told me that.
So he wasn't happy at the time. I've played under him. I know what that means to him. I think about my footy career, right? And I don't text and call and talk to players about the wins and losses. Like, we don't sit around and speak about, how's that time we beat Carlton in the MC, whatever. We speak about moments where we stuck up for each other. We speak about moments when we stuck up for each other. When it didn't matter about winning and losing, I think about Andrew Gaff getting knocked out, Tom Jonas. I ran from the goal square as fast as I could. I'm not joking, I broke my speed record on my GPS that day to get to Tom Jonas. I think about moments like that. Not if I won or lost. Yeah, we won a flag. Yeah, so obviously think about that. But I think about playing with my teammates. And if your teammates don't mean more to you than that, well, you can literally put that team in the bin. That was disgraceful by the West Coast Eagles that they didn't stick up for, regardless if it was an 18-year-old. Just think about other teams around the competition. If one of their top draftee, 18-year-old player got knocked out by one of the best players of the competition. I saw someone use the example, Nick Dacos. What would have happened if Nick Dacos got knocked out by Elliot Yeo? Would Elliot Yeo have just been running around by himself all day?
Put it this way, there was an incident even in the game where I think it was Murphy or might have been even Darcy Moore, where an Eagles player had put down, it might have been relayed free kick. Murphy came up to the player concerned, I forget, it was West Coast, and showed more physicality on something that was nothing than what we saw from the Eagles. Whether we're linking,
do you know who it was? And you know what happened? I was pretty
You're
much.
following that?
I pretty much put the whole game in the bin and I started watching who was actually playing for their mates and their jumper and not themselves, not running around asking for a paycheck and worrying about their careers. I started watching that. The player was Noah Long. And Noah Long ended up fighting Darcy Moore, the captain of the club, and Nathan Murphy. And not one player went and helped him out. Noah fucking Long. Are you kidding me? He's the smallest bloke out there in his first year. That says to me he gets it. And the blokes who didn't go and support Elijah Hewitt, which was most of them out there, they don't get it. I'm sorry. That you couldn't do a worse thing on a football field for mine than not support your teammates. So I'm still worked up about it. You can hear. I just thought it was disgraceful. So you know what? I've done more than defend this football club and this team and these players for a long time. You sat here and heard me talk shit about them. Said they're playing finals this year. Well, I can't defend that. It's indefensible what they did.
But you know, out of every incident like that, Schoey, in all seriousness, they'll learn. They'll sit down and there'll be some players there that will say, gee, that's something I'm, you talk about players cop it so much heat when they're going back with a flight and they pull out or they drop their head when there's a mark, the heat, the courage factor, the bravado factor, which we all love about the Bo Waters and the John Worsfolds and at West Coast in there. But that's something that they'll learn, hopefully, and say, look, this moment defines us going forward as, this can't happen again. And maybe that's something that they can take out of it. And maybe a clip from blokes like yourself as well.
Well, they should. And that defines their culture right at this moment. Right now, before another game gets played, right now, they're an insipid football club. They don't have players that want to play with for each other. And you couldn't have a bigger black mark against your name. So if the Monday morning meeting, which should be happening right now, if that's literally not just showing them what their reaction was, who cares about their ball movement, their contested ball? It gives a shit. If you can't play for your teammates, I've said it a lot. The successful sides, they play for each other. They're connected. That talent comes and goes. Game plans come and goes. Coaches come and goes. If you can't play for each other and be connected, just put a black mark through your name.
And just quickly,
seriously,
you did say at the moment they're an insipid football club. Do you refer just to that incident? Because
that's the culture. That's the culture.
But as you say, what we saw outside of that moment, it was a big moment. I thought there was some heart, there was some spirit, and they were down numbers. They lost West early. They lost obviously Elijah Hewitt early. They had Callum Jamison sore. They had players going off. There was another player go off injured as well. Hearn, of course, with a hamstring.
Yeah.
So I thought there was lots of positives from that side of it. The one area you're talking about is significant, but yeah, I think that'll be addressed.
It should be. Look, there was positives, but to be honest, it doesn't mean anything. If you're going to play for yourself and not worry about your teammates, it doesn't mean you could do whatever you like. Seriously, so I'd put him in the bin. That's what I've done. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shuttle FootyCast. Schoey goes whack on the top of the show. There we go.
Ruffling a few feathers out there at Mineral Resources Park.
That's how I feel. I'm not trying to be controversial. That's how I feel. You saw me Saturday. I slept on it. Sunday, I felt the same. Today, I woke up. Still good? Yeah, I still feel exactly the same.
Let me ask you a quick question. You were at the Dom Sheeds 150th.
Yep.
Was it a talking point at all?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I'll say. I don't need
there was some disappointed players in that room.
Yeah.
And I was asking a few of them about it. But that's all right. Fremantle, they had the buy. Nat Fyfe signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
Good story for Freo.
Yeah.
And look, to be honest with you, in terms of his trade value going forward, there might have been a St Kilda, but it's probably the story. It is. We talk about this all the time. Players of Nat Fyfe's ilk, the loyalty they like to show to one club. I don't think there's any other sport in the world. I mean, when you think about it, when the major sports in basketball, in NFL, in rugby league, rugby union, soccer.
Do you think it's loyalty? Is that why he signed? Do you think he would have got a better deal somewhere else?
I think he could have got the same. Don't think he could have got the same sort of money elsewhere?
I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, a good deal.
2-year deal after not playing a lot of footy.
Yeah, 2 years.
3 years. I know he's won two Brownlows.
No, I tend to agree. That is. No, I think he could have gone somewhere else.
Right.
But I wouldn't have taken the risk as a rival club.
No.
But I think the loyalty factor is still there in footy. And the money's good, but it's a strange thing that we in the AFL or footy believe is important. I can't remember seeing players in rugby league when they shift clubs getting booed every time they get near the ball. I mean, it just happens. But anyway, that's the way we roll.
Yeah, so he signs on for another 2 years. I think it's a great thing for the Freo Footy Club. I think we've seen an extended version of Nat Fyfe this year, not as the captain. We've seen a bit more of him. He's given a bit more in the media, and look, he looks like a really good leader. And not saying he wasn't that before this year.
More relaxed, though, with the role that he's got.
Yeah, I think he'd be a really important part to that footy club. You can't get rid of the senior players when you've got such a young group. Like he's going to shape that footy club, whether they win a flag while he's there or not. If they do, he'll have an extremely big part in doing that.
That being said, the 2-year deal, I don't think you should be expecting him to play, every game for the next 2 years. His record simply doesn't say that. I mean, he hasn't played 20 games in a season, I don't think, since about, 4 years ago. So
football clubs value the leadership element as well.
Yeah, sure.
I know you want your best players to be playing, and he'll be one of the best players. But if he's not on the list, what do you lose? Yes, you lose some games, but you certainly lose some leadership in one of the youngest and up and coming midfield in the competition. So look, I think it's a good thing. It's a good signature.
Yep.
Well done, Fremantle. Collingwood defeat West Coast by 63. Let's get into the game a little bit. Look, you're right. There was positives. West Coast don't score a goal in the first quarter, but the stats didn't say that. They were up in stoppages, up in contested ball. They were playing the way that I think they're trying to play, right? They're trying to play that contested brand of footy with a quicker ball movement style, and they did it for large portions of this game.
Absolutely. There was a lot to take out of it, and even in the second quarter, they conceded some early goals, but they hung around, and that was the pleasing point about it. And as you say, I thought Elliot Yeo, who was completely, at least from where I sat, looked completely exhausted at the back end of that match. That was a shining example of if he can continue to play regular footy at his he's still got some good footy left in him. He was, to me, just outstanding.
He was that third quarter he played. He had 12 disposals. He just that's what that's what Yoey has been. He's like, get on my back, boys. I'm taking you to the Holy Land. Like he was just freak, man possessed. Hasn't played enough footy of late. We know that, but look, he was outstanding. Oscar Allen kicks 3 goals, another multiple goal kicking game. I think he sits 4th in the Coleman medal right now.
How is he? Given the inside 50 entries they've had this year,
yeah.
How is he even in the conversation?
I'm not sure. Did West Coast win inside 50s again?
They won against Essendon. Yeah. I think 49-48 off the top of my head.
Would have been close in this one. Collingwood clearly finished a lot better than they did. Tom Barras was a late out with a hip injury. I can't keep going. That's as hard as I've gone at the footy club for a while, so I can't go again. But these late withdrawals, I think as an industry, I think we're really missing the mark with clarity. Given betting, given fantasy, given how many people go to games, given how many people watch across Fox, across KO, across 7, the amount of money that's involved in this football, in this game, how we don't have clarity an hour before game time with no indication whatsoever that their best player is not going to play, they knew on Friday, right? So no one knows until an hour before the game. Now, yes, there's some competitive advantage West Coast gained from that, and they know that, and that's why they do that. But there needs to be industry-wide clarity, like they do in the NFL. You're either playing, get a green light. You're either 50-50.
Questionable.
Questionable, thank you. A game time decision, right? And that's what they get injury statuses, every player, after every training session. And you just know. And because there's so much money, it can't be Bush League stuff where the best player gets pulled out of the game an hour before the game. Like, that's Bush League. I grew up with mates. I grew up with 2 mates, twins, and they were playing a local grand final, and they were identical twins, right? One was a gun key forward. One was a backman. Really good, like, half-back flanker, but one was a gun key forward, but they looked identical. So before the game, they changed their jumper numbers on the team sheet. So when they watched when the opposition was watching the footage, they had the gun key forward and they had their best defender on him. They'd changed jumpers before the game. The first quarter, they've come out wearing each other's jumpers. The best fullback went to the halfback flanker, who they started them both full forward. The best full forward in the game kicked 4 goals in the first quarter. They won the granny. So that's what they're doing down in Geelong Amos. That's what this stuff feels like every week. But anyway, he misses. Injuries galore. Hearn, West, Elijah Hewitt, all gone. Cal Jamison added to that list now. So they get 4 out.
And bear in mind, Liam Duggan still hasn't been cleared to play this week after what can only be deemed as a disgraceful MRO. That's you're angry about the Eagles' lack of substance after the De Goey incident. For me, I'm at a loss. If that is a suspendable action, I seriously give up because it wasn't a sling, there wasn't a double motion. There are so many elements of that I thought was just, it can't be suspended. They have to appeal. They must appeal.
So I was watching this one pretty closely. I don't know if you remember me on the call. Taylor Adams, I felt, look, you can't question guys when they get hit in the head. But I watched the footage. He hits his head on the left side. He holds his right side of his head. And then I watched him. He stayed down, got the free kick. He then it was like you pop-up sprinkler, fucking good to go. He got the next kick. He was sprinting around, never came off. Look, I think players are starting to...
we've had, I think even Jack Revolt has mentioned this. Players are starting to use this rule.
Yeah, because they're getting rewarded for it. And that's what happens, mate. Players are smart, and you can't be angry about it. Players are always going to try and manipulate the rules in their team's advantage. So, look, I hope he doesn't get suspended. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Inside 50s for the day. West Coast went down by 1, 55 to 56, but they won stoppages.
Yeah, but they're beaten by 10 goals, so that's
correct.
That's an anomaly in some respects.
Correct. Dom Sheed in his 150th game, 43 touches, most ever equal.
Yes, career high equal. We rode him to that.
I asked him if he knew what was going on. He said he didn't. He knew he'd had a good day, but he wasn't counting his touches. It was the second most disposals in a game, 150 by any player ever.
Wow.
I don't know who the best was. It just says that. So, Dacos for Collingwood, he kicks 3, has 30.
Who gets the 3 Brownlow votes?
Well, I was going to say, was he best on ground? Like, probably.
Yeah, 10 goal win, you get it, don't you?
I don't like Dom Sheed has 43 and a goal. Maybe he gets a vote.
Dacos 3, I think Sheed 2.
Maybe.
Or 1. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but... Look, Collingwood weren't at their best, but when you're on the top of the ladder and you're playing the bottom of the ladder, you don't have to be at your best, and that's the point, I guess, you make there. Nick Dacos, I watched him pretty closely throughout. He got a bit of a close checking role from Xavier O'Neill at stages, which kept him pretty quiet, but he works harder than any player out on the ground. I called him a front runner, and I know that sometimes can be disrespectful, but I didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. He anticipates the game better than anyone out there. He can see what's going to happen, and he runs forward to the footy, which makes him a front runner, but he does it better than anyone else. So he's playing in the best team in the comp. That's his role, to react, to go. He goes harder. Last quarter, he was sprinting around. He was squealing for the footy, and that's why he's probably going to win a Brownlow. And I was really the way he worked didn't surprise me, I suppose, given how good he is. But that's why he's such a good player.
Yeah, he's good to watch. I know some say he wanders around on his lonesome, but
no, he's not wandering around. He just reacts quicker. He just goes faster. And sometimes, because I'm a backman, I call that cheating. But cheating, again, that's what good forwards, good midfielders do. They anticipate more. The ball might be going to a 50-50, and everyone on the field goes, 50-50. He's going, we're winning this, I'm going forward.
Yeah.
So, good on him. Good luck to him. We both picked Collingwood. Well done, Skeets. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, shot of FootyCast. The rest of the round, Skeeter, buys to Brisbane, St Kilda, Sydney. Melbourne defeat Carlton by 17 points Friday night. If you remember back to then.
Yeah.
They've been working pretty hard this weekend.
Carlton, they're cooked. Yep. They are cooked. 27 goals in their past 4 games.
Yep.
Just can't find an answer. I watched part of this game. It was like you'd rather stick needles in your eyes. It was a pretty average game to watch.
Yes. Carlton, I was getting multiple messages. I was on air when this was happening. Multiple messages that this was the worst game of the year to watch.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was low scoring. It was 60-something. It was low scoring. Melbourne would have been just doing what they had to do. Like that, you don't have to go and smack teams by 100 points to know you're better. They would have just been,
They're just going though, Melbourne. I mean, I know they're missing Oliver, and he's critical, but they're not, put it this way, they are not playing the type of footy that, well, in 12 weeks from now, they obviously, if they're thereabouts, you'd expect something far more complete. But they're nowhere near what we expect them to be at the moment.
Sam Walsh had 22 touches. Pretty good game. In his last 29 games, he had 25 plus every game. he'd never gone under 25 in 29 games.
Wow.
So, shocking game by Sam Walsh, the 22 touches.
By his own standards.
Melbourne, I agree. Melbourne are sort of just going along. The Gawn Grundy thing, it hasn't. I don't think it ever was. Gawn is such a powerhouse that putting another powerhouse with him doesn't necessarily make it this, undefeatable thing, because one of them has to play forward. So I'm actually not too surprised how that's gone for this first half of the year, the Gawn Grundy combination. Harry Mackay kicked 3 goals, kicked straighter.
He also had a shot on goal from 40 metres out and decided to snap the ball. Didn't make the distance. I don't know how many times you're going to go through this, but it didn't make the distance, Schoey. Didn't make the distance from 40 out. I'd rather him miss with the conventional, at least make the distance.
Yes, okay, I'll take that on. You let me know when you're going to roll this Thirsty Camel Clanger of the week out. Is it going to back end, is it? A bit of a Skeeter story?
You can throw it out whenever you want.
It's a bit of a Skeeter story by the sounds of things.
It's not a bit embarrassing,
perfect. That sounds even better. Carlton and Melbourne. I'm assuming we both picked Melbourne.
Yeah, we picked Melbourne.
We're on fire to start the week.
Oh, yeah, it goes downhill from here.
Port Adelaide defeat Hawthorn by 55 points. Probably unders in the end. They jumped out to a huge, huge lead. Jeremy Finlayson had kicked 4 goals and had 14 touches in the first quarter. He was on 85 fantasy points at quarter time.
What does that mean? You got a lot of it.
Yeah, we're happy with the fantasy. You've never done fantasy footy?
No, mate, no. It's like, playing Fortnite. Are you an adult or not?
Have you played Fortnite before?
No, no idea.
Can you tell me what you think Fortnite is?
Well, Carl told me he plays it.
Carl plays it? Does he?
Yeah, he's a complete numpty. Anyway, I don't know. It's killing blokes or something anyway.
Very good. No, fantasy footy, mate, it's just football.
Yeah,
it's just a bit of fun.
That. Yeah. Time consuming.
I'll lose a lot less money than you do having fun with footy.
Oh,
What?
Sorry, Bill Gates.
I'm saying I make more money than you, dickhead. Bill Gates. Oh, wow. Okay, Port Adelaide, 9 wins in a row, their longest ever winning streak. And Ken Hinkley says that doesn't matter to him. They're just worried about how they're playing. Surely that means something. I mean, they've won 9 in a row. They're sizzling.
They're the real deal. They're probably the second best side, maybe the best side in the comp at the moment. And they're playing such good footy.
Yeah.
They did absolutely put the head on the pillow in the last quarter, and I think it was 6 goals to 2. So Hawthorn, it was the margin at halftime. It would.
Their highest ever quarter time score at Adelaide Oval, 9-3-57.
They could have kicked 30 if they put their mind to it. They finished with 150 points or thereabouts. So it was another performance from Port. As you said, Finlayson at standing. That I didn't, because we were at Optus, didn't see the entirety, and I don't know how Zach Butters went given his recent vein of form.
Yeah. Well, we're asking me for I see next to you at Optus Stadium.
Probably a good question.
I think he was good. Just reading that Port are the first team to reach 100 points at halftime since 2019.
Wow.
We're starting to see. I mean, Carl was banging on about it that we haven't seen high scores this year. Last week, no score went over 90 or something. Whereas this week it was a scoring bonanza.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's just how footy goes. Like, I like, you look at the trends and you look at. I think sometimes it's high scoring and sometimes it's not. Is that outrageous?
Not sure why. Yeah, it's just two sides come together. I mean, there's one yesterday I thought was going to be high scoring, and it was. But yeah,
no Sicily hurts Hawthorn.
Massively.
I think Sam Mitchell would be not heartened because he can't be giving that up in the first half. But at least they didn't get done by 200. It went the other way.
Yeah.
They brought it back from a big margin to sub 10 goals. Whether you put that down to Port Adelaide taking their foot off the gas, they had 4 goal kickers over 4 goals in Finlayson, Marshall, and Rioli, or you put it to Hawthorn that they actually had some fight. They almost scored 100 points in this game. So that's not the worst. That's Hawthorn's game style. You can see it evolving. Their midfield is young yet.
But they've got guys like Nash and Day and Newcombe. So that you can see that the games are getting into them. And
Correct.
They've had some really good moments and they had some poor moments. But that's, I suppose, what you expect with the team in their development.
I think you picked Hawthorn to beat Port Adelaide.
But mind you, again, just to give myself throw myself under the bus, that was my bottom up roughie of the week. And that was done probably 15 minutes in.
So you're having a bit of a chuckle, but just remember I went very close to nailing the bottom
line is you did not get your roughie of the week up, but you had some merit points there.
Correct. Thank you very much. Geelong defeat Western Bulldogs by 22 points. Cats came back third term. They worked their way back into the game. I think it's disappointing by Western Bulldogs, but maybe we've just written Geelong off too well, too quickly. They've still got a lot of premiership players running around there. Clearly, they seem like the sort of club that can flick a switch a little bit. So maybe after a couple of poor losses to Geelong, people have said, well, they can't make finals. They probably can.
They probably can, but whether they can make an impact. Bottom line is they're 8th.
Yep.
Which it seems inexplicable given the footy we've seen from them. We haven't really seen what has been their best performance this year. Does this qualify as close to it? I mean, they took care of Hawthorn after half time, but we know they're no great shakes. What's been their best victory?
I assume they've beaten someone half time.
I mean, they smashed Sydney, but Sydney aren't going any well.
Surely they've beaten someone good.
It might be the Bulldogs. This might be their best win for the season.
You just stop throwing questions without telling me about them, Skater, because I can't think of anyone. Maybe Jaden can have a look for that. Although I did say
after last week with Geelong,
I did say that you wouldn't be getting the microphone back this week, and you're not going to be, because we will get to the back end of this show, and we'll be speaking about Jaden's debacle
faux pas
on Thursday about
mistake that is
the teams. Yes, thank you. The teams that. What was it? I can't think now.
The 2 grand finalists from the previous year,
didn't make finals.
Have they ever not made the finals? When was the last time they haven't made the finals?
And Geelong's heard you talking about that, and
they're only on the 8.
Yeah, perfect. So they got back Dangerfield, Guthrie, Duncan, Radigalia, Stanley. So, so they're coming. I think they're going to improve, Skeeter. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think so. And look, I still don't think
they'll get them back after the bye.
That's true. So they get a bit of a breather. Probably not bad for them. But I think the Bulldogs were the one that. I was sort of starting to warm to them, and as soon as I got close to loving them, they've fallen a heap against the Gold Coast Suns.
Yes,
despite dominating the numbers, and against the Cats, they were really disappointing after halftime. I thought that's a big loss for them, and particularly at Marvel Stadium, they play that ground well.
Did we both pick the Bulldogs?
I picked the Bulldogs.
I think I definitely did.
Pick the Bulldogs.
Great.
Yeah.
That was good to watch.
Yeah.
Gold Coast defeat Adelaide by 25 points. This was another bit of a scrappy affair in Darwin, to be frank. Adelaide looked like they had them going in the first half. I tuned out of this one when I thought my tip was correct, but I looked back and the Gold Coast Suns
surged
9 goals in a row for Gold Coast, equal longest streak for the Gold Coast Sun in their history. The 3rd time in 2023 this year, Adelaide has lost a game after being up by over 4 goals.
Yeah, no, of course I tipped the Adelaide Crows on this basis, and Jack Lukosius, isn't he in a nice little space at the moment? So he kicks 5 goals. Jordan Dawson, lots of fantasy points here, 128. So I'm not sure if that constitutes a good game or not. But anyway, he was good. But there's some concerns there for Adelaide. They lose. Duday is gone for the rest of the year with an ACL.
Yeah, disappointing.
So that's not great. But Stewie Jew, who's been under the pump, surely now he starts to feel a bit safer about 2024.
Are they going to challenge for finals ever?
No, because you and I have both said that they are perennially going to finish between, say, 10th and 14th. And I still think
currently equal on points for 8th.
They are. So I'd love to see them. Wouldn't you love to see the Gold Coast Suns qualify for the finals?
Oh, I'd love to see them win a flag. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
But is that going to happen?
Not in my lifetime. You've got a few more years to go. But they can play finals, but I just... Yeah, I'm hoping this is the evolution that we've been waiting for, and this team now is starting to come of age. Because if they do, they're a bloody exciting side.
All right, I'm gonna go with this, Skeeter. All right, Froth Town. What we frothed on this weekend, August 18 and 19, Claremont Showgrounds, Froth.town. I go out Saturday, okay, had a good time, no worries. I wake up, I'm hungover, I want to be anywhere else. I'll prop myself up on the couch for Sunday footy, and we cop a couple of absolute ball terror games on the weekend. I don't know if I've seen better footy in a day this year. Richmond defeat GWS by 6 points, and Essendon defeat North Melbourne by 6 points. They were literally identical games. They were shootouts. They were energetic. There was goal kickers. There was moments. My Sunday on the couch in front of the footy, couple of snoozers in there. That's what I was frothing on, Skeeter.
I've got to say, that froth moment was with us as well, because I went to the radio station yesterday to commentate Essendon and North Melbourne, and wasn't in a great mindset. A 2.5 hour preview for a game that goes 2.5 hours, and I'm thinking this could be just absolute shite. But it was a good game.
Yes.
It was a really good game, and I'll add to that Frothtown moment where Massimo D'Ambrosio kicked a late goal. In fact, it was just trading goals at the death, and Sammy Draper kicked a beauty. But the guy who got picked up in the mid-season draft last year, I thought was a really good moment. So Frothtown moment for me came late in that game. And I had first real look at George Wardlaw. I don't know if you've seen much of him.
Haven't liked it.
Matt, really, and he got caught a couple of times, but there were a lot of other occasions I thought this kid has got a few wheels and a few tricks. So great game of footy for two sides, and that wasn't expected, I would have thought. A la the Richmond game, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yes, that is correct. Essendon and North Melbourne, we'll go to that one first, right? 6 points. It was the second game of the week, but we'll come out of order a little bit. Zach Merritt had one of the best first quarters.
16 disposals, 2 goals, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely sizzling. It's got to be one of the best of all time. He's in my fantasy team, Skater. It was just an up and down game, though. It was back and forth and had moments. Taron Thomas returned to the side. I know you're quite strong on him.
Yeah, I'm not big on him, but he gets a chance, not for the first time.
Yeah, so he was actually quite strong. If we talk from a football element, Brad Scott coaching against his old club, of course. Brett Ratton, trying to get his first win at the helm of North Melbourne.
Tell you what, at North, they've been beaten by a goal here. They've had, I'm not sure if the interchange steward got sacked the other week, but they should have beaten or could have beaten Sydney. So Brett Ratton's doing a pretty good job, got to say.
Hey, Dan, can you write back to the text message I just got on my phone, please? You're in a group message with me. I think it's kind of important. Sorry, Skeeter, to continue on. Now, 5 lead changes in the third quarter, 5 in the final term.
Yeah, North led, I think, by 17 points in the third quarter, and guys like Justin Longmuir, believe it or not, would have been pretty pumped by that because they want teams like Essendon to lose some matches because the Dockers outside the 8 looking to maybe make some ground on St Kilda, North Melbourne, Essendon, those types of teams that are inside the 8 or on the cusp of it.
Correct. Hey, Dan, this might help you, mate. This is from Darren. Here you go. Sorry about this, everybody. Just give us multiple lives. Now, the rule goes first to 100 points wins, like 99.4. But these two games... The reason that is, right, if a team's on 100, they're usually winning by a fair bit. So
yeah.
There's very rarely games where both sides are sitting right on the cusp of... So in Essendon North, I think it was 99 all or 98 all. And in GWS Richmond, it was 97 all. Right, so they're both sitting there. This game, Essendon was first to 100 and they win. And they maintain the rule. If we move on to the next game, Richmond defeat GWS by 6 points. 97 all. GWS go to 103. They kicked the first goal.
Was it Flynn?
Something like that, yeah.
Kicked the goal late?
No, not Flynn. He did not play. That was Briggs.
Oh, Briggs, should I say Briggs?
You'd know that if you were a fantasy football player because he's up and about with fantasy.
Okay, yep.
He kicks the goal, puts them in front, takes them to 100. They lose. Literally no teams in the AFL lose like that.
Well, and you know the irony is that Richmond have found every way to lose a close game in the past couple of years as Damien Hardwick sinks some beers in Denver.
Is he on a Kentucky tour?
I'm not sure. He looks like he's
What's going on?
He's on the gas somewhere, isn't he?
He's just putting out like plays down the way, taking a whole camera out, lose your feet, big fella. Yeah.
Anyway, he's out of play. He's having a bit of a break. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, Andrew McQualter gets his first win, and Marlon Pickett. 2 things he did in that last quarter. One, spotting up Dion Prestia to kick a late goal, which was really good, and Prestia finished, and then just the composure to kick the match winner as it turned out. So finally, the Giants, I think bar one match, they've been involved in games decided by 21 points or less. Oh, it's been quite extraordinary. The Tigers finally get a result, so well done to them, but I did not tip them, which comes as no surprise. The Tigers have absolutely torched me this year.
I'll pick Richmond.
Did he tip Richmond? I don't know. You make stuff up as you go along.
I definitely did. And don't even check your notes. I know I did. Rewalt kicks 5. Green, he's a star. He kicks 3 in his 201st game. They had Toby Green faces in the crowd, but they'll be disappointed in the end. But I don't think either of those sides are challenging for finals. And
agree.
Perhaps Essendon and North Melbourne. I don't know. Maybe Essendon do it. I don't know. Maybe Essendon can do it. They had a younger side than North Melbourne on the weekend. But I just loved footy. I loved footy over that weekend and had a lot of fun. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, shout out FootyCast. Now, that was your froth down moment. What about the Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week, Skeeter? Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters at Thirsty Camel. Embarrass yourself.
Well, I will. And I told you about my struggles with the pronunciation of names at the Force game on.
Right, which is not... if I'm to come to your defence... If I'm coming to your defence, it's a difficult...
Yeah, and you struggle to say pronunciate. So we know where we're coming from here. So here I am. After the game, we get a script. And I had a great time, by the way, with Amy and Rebecca. Looked after me beautifully because I knew I was sort of, don't really follow rugby. I like my NRL. Anyway, in the order, we're going to get the captain, then the coach. So Michael Wells, Simon Cron. I think, no worries. So I get out there. It's freezing. I've got my jacket on, as I still have. and the player gets brought across. And I start interviewing and Michael and this, and the questions keep coming. There it is, captain of the Western Force. They've been knocked out of the finals contention, but Michael Wells, great to have him. Looking to camera, great to have him here. He goes off. Rebecca comes over and says, no, that was the player of the match, Max Bury. So I was interviewing the player of the match, but I was calling him Michael Wells, the captain. And the problem was that when Michael came across, about 60 seconds later, Max Bury, who I now know very well, is about 5'6". Michael Wells is about 6'4", so it wasn't even if I could get the height matched
sick.
up.
I feel sick.
Guess what?
Your role is shut your mouth.
So I'm prepared to own that. Luckily, I went off and had a drink in a corporate box. No one even noticed because no one actually listens to the shit that I was talking out there in the first place.
Did you speak to the players about it?
No, I didn't because, mate, I wanted to dig a hole. Imagine.
I've done the same thing, so I know that's why I feel sick. Right?
But, I said, Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I just thought you were bringing the captain over. And anyway, Max Bury, if he's got my name,
He's
I
probably
apologise.
listening to the Shelter FootyCast.
If he does have a list. If anyone knows Max Bury, can you apologise?
We'll get him. I reckon we get a slab of Shelter IPAs for him. Seriously, we got some absolute numpty on the microphone and can't even figure out the bloke's name. Seriously, Skeeter, Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week. How about go and get a box of shelters down there and sort your favourites out?
What a dickhead.
Yeah, it's unreal. All right, let's get to some listener questions, Skeeter. A couple of buys.
Yes.
So we've got a bit more time at the back end here. This one is from Kyle. So this is from last week on today's ep. You talked about West Coast not opening up another list spot. So we're talking about the mid-season draft here, Skeeter. Do you think part of the reluctance that they didn't take a pick is that they didn't know who will still be available by the time they get their second pick and therefore didn't want to make the call and put a line through someone's season unnecessarily? Obviously, given they had pick one, they knew they'd get Ryan Marrick. But by the time their second pick rolled around, 11, other clubs had already had a pick, making it hard to predict who was going to be available. As a potential solution, so you understand with me. As a potential solution, do you think it's feasible for clubs to be given more flexibility around managing their list around the mid-season draft? As an example, potentially give clubs until the day after the mid-season draft to confirm who is going to be on the long-term injury list.
Interesting point, and then I'm assuming
from
Kyle, all of those elements are indeed true. If you know what I'm saying, so I'm not sure if you're completely across the mid-season draft because I certainly don't.
No, you've got to put a line through someone. You can't just have a pick. Right?
Exactly.
So Kyle's saying, potentially, can you have a bit of time to actually figure that out? Given that it's a draft, given you don't know who's going to be available, if you're targeting a ruckman and you got Nick Nananui sitting there, and you say, okay,
what's Sam Naismith? Can we get Sam Naismith?
Right, and we're going to get him, and we go, Nick, see you later, and then Sam Naismith goes the pick before you. And there's no ruckman left.
What do you do?
And I guess you don't have Nick Nat anyway, though, because he's injured.
No, but you're left high and dry. I think the issue, and again, just trying to work my way through it, we're both trying to understand the machinations of it, but Jermaine Jones, with his injury, I think the club has to put in a time frame for his layoff. So I don't think it's as simple as maybe it sounds. But, if there's ways to make it more flexible for clubs, I think Kyle's got a good suggestion there. Just on the mid-season draft, Ryan Marrick, by the way, played his first game for the Eagles yesterday, 5 disposals, 1 goal.
Yes.
But if you're trying to make a living in the West Coast Eagles waffle forward line, you're going to go hungry pretty quickly. So
that's correct.
It's going to be tough for him to get up to speed quickly.
That goes back to the development problems.
But he's going to have to play. He's going to have to play AFL football this year, isn't he? Well, why draft him if not the case? Well, you don't think that's necessarily a given?
Look at him from a long-term point of view.
Okay.
Get a look at him, get him into the club. Yeah, I don't think he necessarily has to play, but
I'd like to get a look at him.
I do agree it's going to be difficult to develop in that side as a forward.
Yeah.
Elijah Hewitt, concussion. This is from, I don't know if it's just saying cheers lads or just cheers lad, but it's got, I don't know who this is from, but do the Eagles need to breed a dog?
Sorry? Breed a dog?
All right, stay with me, Skeeter. Someone with a bit of bite. Where's our Daniel Chick? Michael Braun? I wouldn't have Braun.
Bo
in this.
Waters.
Bo Waters type player. Someone that would have run the whole field to get to the goalie for that hit. Even Schoey was good with some bite. I wouldn't let that happen on the way I did. I don't want to pump my own tyres up, but I used to live for those. I used to be waiting for that to happen. So I could show the boys because, anyway, I'm not going to pump my tyres up. A player like that galvanises the group and they go into games fearless, knowing a player like Chicky is going to throw himself at Barry Hall when he lets one go. I'd love to hear this discussion on the pod. Cheers, lads. It's from Bronson. Bronson J. Cox.
Wow, that's a good name. That's pretty funky. There was a guy called, two guys yesterday. I mentioned Massimo D'Ambrosio. I love that.
Yes.
But also Spicer, Phoenix.
Yeah, he looks
no,
good.
it's Phoenix Spicer, should I say. It's Phoenix Spicer for North. He's sharp.
No,
I've already got my clanger locked away.
look, I kind of agree because when we were talking about this on radio, I was like, well, who...
They don't have one, do they?
Who is it? And you don't have to be a scrapper and a fighter. You don't need that, but you need a bit of shit in you. And I don't know how many players out there. Bronson, you've dragged me back into the trenches here, mate. I don't know how many players out there have it in them.
The only one I could say, I think you've got to be able to, if you're going to have that role, you've also got to be able to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just be a bloke that's on the fringe. Greg Clark did it, and kudos to him.
Yes.
The guy that, I mean, you know him a lot better than I, but whether Yoey's got that, and he's got a bit of bull about him, has he got enough in him to
He does.
Yeah.
He was on the bench.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying as a player that, the only one I can think of off the top of my head that's got that.
He would be at the top of my list, Elliot Yeo. I think with some in the right mindset, Bailey Williams potentially could, but
Hasn't shown it's
as I said, Greg Clark fighting in front of him. He was one of the guys in that centre bounce. Look, it's a real thing. I think it's really important in a football club to have players like that. Yes, you got to be out. Bo Waters could play. Daniel Chick could. A guy that used to do it, but everyone knew he was that guy, was Dean Cox. I don't know if that surprises anyone, but Dean Cox was the sort of guy that if anything happened to any of his teammates, he would forget about what was happening in the game and make sure, maybe not physically, maybe not scruffing them up, but verbally and mentally, and then would target them by making them like going at them like with taps, and he would go at someone relentlessly for a game if they did something against one of his teammates. Dean Cox was right up there. Chris Judd, I was speaking about Daniel Pratt, my current backline coach. Juddy was a guy like that. I've played with lots of guys over there, and they're the guys I remember. I don't know if this West Coast side has them.
No. And just a quick one on Coxie. We know his good work that he's doing at the Sydney Swans as an assistant coach, but just keep an eye out for his burgeoning businessman career, because he is developing he's really jumped into the franchisee status, I'm told, in Hungry Jack's, and just starting to spread his wings in that department. So Coxie. Yeah.
Wow-wee.
Yeah, it's just a little known fact. Stevie J told me that.
West Australian brand, Hungry Jack's?
I think, Hungry Jack's is WA based.
Synonymous with West
Coast
Australia,
Eagles,
given the West Coast Eagles.
Yeah, so anyway, in Sydney, I think he's just doing his best work. Mind you, he's probably paying $15,000 a week rent wherever he is in Sydney, so he needs to make some extra coin.
Can we expect him back in Western Australia coaching at any stage?
Good question. Isn't it a good question? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Skeeter. Right, okay, we need to address this because our producer Jaden does a lot of great work behind the scenes. He makes this show tick. We've taken his microphone privileges off of him for a week because last week he's had an absolute howler.
Man.
And you know what? If he had been right at the top of his game, he would have clipped that for us and we would have played it. But he's too embarrassed. Skeeter's been asking. Fuck my life. What have you been asking? What have you been asking?
I've been asking, when is the last time two grand finalists from the previous year have missed the finals the following year? In this case, Geelong, Sydney.
Jaden, very excited over there, jumped on and said, I've got it, boys, I've got it. It's 2020. 2020. Geelong was in that grand final. Haven't missed finals for about 50 years, Jaden. So it wasn't 2020. Oh, no. Actually, I've got it. 2021. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Melbourne were in that one, Jaden. You've had an absolute stinker. Well, we asked for the people to come, and they did. It came in from lots of people. So you know who you are. Max Hansen on YouTube sent one in. I don't have any other names in front of me, Jaden. That's on you, but that's fine. Answering Skeets' question. We had a lot of emails and DMs. So thank you very much. Closest it has come is 2005. In the 2004 grand final, it was Port Adelaide v Brisbane, and in 2005, Port Adelaide just made 8th by half a game, and Brisbane missed in 11th. There has been 4 times prior to this that one grand finalist has qualified for the finals the next year and one grand finalist has not. The last time 2 grand finalists missed the finals
I can
next
tell you this.
year.
Martin Davis gave me this one on Twitter.
Okay.
Is it the same source from you, or you don't have a source? Okay. I've got to give him a shout-out. Martin Davis to us on Twitter says, here's the answer to Skeets' question. 1963, when Carlton and Essendon didn't make finals.
Yes.
It was a top 4 and only 12 teams. But that's, according to Martin Davis, what I was chasing. And that's going back 37. That's 60 years ago.
So 62 was the Essendon Carlton grand final, and then 63, as you say, was the next year that they both missed them. So shout out to Jermaine Parker, to Gordon, to Luke Johnson, to Robert Sword. Thank you for looking after us. Thank you for jumping straight down Jaden's neck as he absolutely butchered it. And I thought this one would be a good one to finish on, Skeeter. This is from Jono. Good morning, Skeet and Schoey. Because of my weekly work schedule, I listen to the Thursday FootyCast each week on a Monday. So he's probably listening to last, Anyway, after the round, and I'm constantly amazed at the crap you guys dribble. This week's effort was outstanding. Love the show, however, boys. Regards, Jono.
Well, I can't dispute any of that, and may the crap continue, because we're just 2 blokes sitting here. And I've got to say, though, Schoey, you're very fired up today. I haven't heard you as animated about your former club, and it's interesting to see what transpires on that front.
It's because I care. It is actually because I do care. I'm not just out here throwing things around. Like Dan Collins. I don't know. Dan's just sitting on chairs, putting microphones together. Shelter XPA X Factor Skeeter. Can't go to a Freo player. Got to go to a West Coast player. I don't know if we can do anything more. He had a fair few of these, at his celebrations. Dom Sheed, 150, 43 touches and a goal. I don't think you could actually play better in your 150th game. He was outstanding. Elliot Yo's moving up the ranks a little bit. He does that again. He'll be getting a shelter of XPAs. So we've got a slab to get to Dom Sheed. We've got a slab to get to
Max Bury, the man of the match for the Force. Apologies again to Max and also to the Force for that mix-up there. But Michael Wells is a lot taller, and he's the captain.
That was, of course, Skeeter's Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week, forgetting people's names, which I do quite often, so I can't hold a gun to your head too much, Skeeter. That's it, done and dusted. My voice is running out. Can't put words together. Socials, Shelter FootyCast. You can send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us podcast. See you next week.